I will call the meeting to order and welcome to the Lee Select Board meeting. Before we get started, I will let everyone know pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I'm informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of this meeting. With that, our first order of business for tonight are the open session minutes from February 3rd. Have each of you had a chance to review? Do I have a motion for approval, or are there any edits?
No, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes from February 3rd as written.
I'll second.
If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bob, you don't have an extra pen, do you?
I did.
I forgot mine upstairs. Figured you did. Thank you. Just so I can keep track.
Yeah, no problem.
Next, we have a public hearing continued from our last meeting regarding 2 jointly owned poles on Woodland Road, installing 2 new jointly owned poles in between 2 existing poles. And we had some questions on whether or not the lines could just be located underground, if that was a possibility. And I have some info here, but is there somebody from Eversource that can maybe just speak to that, and whether we're able to locate these lines underground, or if it's necessary for poles?
Did you guys talk to GD?
I didn't. GE?
Yes.
No.
Not, as far as I know, they never reached out to us.
No.
Okay. I tried reaching out to them about 4 times and I never got a hold of them.
Okay, so we're still pending on whether or
Why don't
not.
we continue this for another 2 weeks until we get some, I mean, if somebody should talk to us about it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Bob, do you have any?
No, I think the simple courtesy of a response would be appreciated, so.
Yeah. Well,
But you did try to get a hold of them, right?
Oh, my understanding was, we have information saying that we could require them to be underground, but my understanding was you guys were reaching out to, on that end. I did get and provided the board with our bylaws and Chapter 166 of MGL that does state that we can require underground lines.
Okay. Is that something I can get emailed to me?
sure.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we, since there seems to be some confusion and GE is not involved, and you know, I don't want to say yes or no until we find out what our possibilities are. So, unless I assume this, I'm sorry, I didn't see who was speaking. Oh, there you are.
Brian
Yeah.
Anderson.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So, yeah, if you don't have any information from them either, I think, I don't want to cut you off if you have anything else to say. That's all. Otherwise, I'm going to make a motion to move it 2 more weeks till we hear back from somebody one way or another, just so we understand our position.
Oh, okay.
All right?
Yeah, I'm gonna try talking to my supervisor tomorrow about this also.
Okay.
Yeah.
See what he has to say.
I mean, thank you for trying to get this done and get information for us. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we put this off put it on our next agenda and continue this public hearing, 7 o'clock. Looks like March 3rd, 2026.
Yes. We have a motion and a second to continue this at our next meeting, 7 o'clock. Is there any further discussion? Yeah, I would just say, Ryan, right?
Yes.
We're just kind of looking for some more information from GE, so maybe we can do a sidebar on our end, but if there's anything you can do to just get somebody here to explain us what the reason is for this, because it's a little vague of why we're installing 2 new poles in between 2 existing poles. And yeah, so with that, if there's no further discussion, All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on into public comment. At this point, anyone here in the room or on Zoom is welcome to make a comment about really anything on the agenda or not, and I'll give it another minute, probably a few seconds.
Well,
Is this regarding the smart meters? Because we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah.
That'll be easier.
So we'll move into our general business for tonight. Our first order of business is the approval of the updated fee schedule for the building department. And we have an updated schedule here in front of us, and it's my understanding that us being a joint building department between multiple towns, all towns are looking to set the same rates across the board to help staff. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, Matt is
And
here.
Matt's
If you wanna
here.
Comment on that, Matt. Confirm, but that's my understanding. There would be one set rate amongst the 6 towns that use the 5 towns that use the building department.
Yeah, that was the idea. We submitted the same fee schedule to all the towns.
And these fees include building inspection fees, fire safety, plumbing, gas, electrical, just for everybody's edification.
They do, we included the fire fee as an option for the fire departments, based on some feedback I got from different fire chiefs, but,
Thank you.
so that's an optional thing that they could charge if they want.
Gotcha. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Comments?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I'd just say, I will not be, because of my position, I won't be voting on the actual fee schedule, but I have a recommendation strictly about the format at the top, where there is no legal standing for anything called a building inspector. So if we use the legal terminology, it would be the Office of the Building Commissioner / Inspector of Buildings. And then I would suggest that you then also underneath that have another line that just says Town Shared Inspectional Department, which ties to the paragraph underneath. And also in the paragraph underneath, it says the Office of the Building Inspector, again, Office of the Building Commissioner / Inspector of Buildings, because those are the legal terms, so that hopefully we won't get any pushback from anybody on that. But building inspector is no such thing in the law or the regulation. Other than that, I am not going to discuss anything about any of the fees. I appreciate your allowing me to comment about that.
Thank you. Bob, do you have any questions, comments?
No.
Yeah, I don't have anything further for our commissioner. So if I'd entertain at this
Mr.
point.
Chair, just
yeah.
make sure that what I've suggested, if he's cool with that. If not, if he
Yeah.
wants to leave it there, it's totally up to him, but it's strictly a suggestion on my part to keep it clear and succinct. So, but he may feel otherwise, and I don't mean to tell the five towns that they do.
Gordon, you're absolutely right. I definitely should use the terminology that's in the actual law. So inspector, Office of the Building Commissioner, Office of the Inspector of Buildings, I think is correct.
Yeah. So maybe we can make the motion contingent on that.
I'll make a motion that we accept the revised fee schedule as presented, with the understanding that we'll make the suggested changes in the heading of the documents.
All right, and I will second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One abstention. Thank you. All right, so moving on into our next item, we have an municipal vulnerability grant presentation from our town planner. And BRPC.
yes, absolutely.
Tag team.
Do you want to start? Sure.
Please just for everybody.
Yeah, so Brooke Healy, I'm the town planner, and this is Allison Dixon from VRPC. Allison approached myself inquiring if we had any plans for this year's MVP grant. We did not. I did not have any current projects that would check any boxes of things we were actively doing or any super attainable projects for us to do in-house currently. And we brainstormed, really, Allison more than I did and her team, but a really awesome project that I'm very excited for.
So, thank you for having me here. We are proposing a culvert assessment and prioritization project that would be regional. We have identified 4 towns and are considering another one. They include Cheshire, Dalton, Hinsdale, and Lee. And municipal vulnerability preparedness is a climate resilience grant. And your MVP plan did identify culvert assessments and your hazard mitigation as a priority action. Many years ago, when the state was putting together protocols, we had assessed the culverts, but those are very old and not on the current database. This project would be 2 years, and Berkshire Regional Planning Commission would be the applicant. There is 0% match, so there's no financial commitment from the town. We would coordinate the project, and we'd be working with Greenagers and Berkshire Environmental Action Team to have a crew that would assess the culverts. And the town would receive a report that would prioritize the top 10 recommendations for replacement. And that top 10 would be identified not just with the culvert assessments, but with engaging with the community and primarily engaging with Department of Public Works and town officials, town staff, to hear where you have identified concerns. And some of those have been captured. The grant is due March 20th.
Yes, yep.
And we would need a letter of support to move forward with the project. And perhaps you have questions.
Bob, Gordon, you guys have anything further to ask at this point?
No, does this have, well, they might overlap with the curb replacement that we talked about a few weeks ago. Would this be done in conjunction with that, or are they related in any way?
Complete streets
Yes,
separate.
Yeah.
Separate,
altogether.
yeah. So we already applied for
Could
it.
turn into an MVP construction grant later for the culverts that were identified. This is
Okay.
kind of the first
Yeah.
step. in-
Okay.
There's also other grants too for culvert infrastructure. So if we had a plan like this, it would definitely make us a stronger applicant for any infrastructure grants going forward for the removal or replacement or repairs of these culverts.
And the goal with the report, I worked on a similar project. I worked for Housatonic Valley Association prior to Berkshire Regional, and we had a similar project with multiple communities in the Housatonic watershed. So we will be doing a similar project, but in keeping in mind those grant applications, and we do assist municipalities with them, our goal is to include some key information in that report that you can just pull out, put into the grant application, and facilitate that process to help move culverts forward.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to send a letter of support for the town of Lee to participate in the Berkshire County Culvert Assessment and Prioritization Project.
I will second that.
Want to authorize the chair to sign?
Yeah, I'll authorize the chair to sign.
Sure. You don't want to sign?
No.
As well? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Sure.
We'll get that grant right over, that application right over to you. Next on our agenda is a seasonal communities presentation, for lack of a better word, by our town planner.
So I believe that we've already discussed this once, but essentially recently Lee was included in the designated municipalities from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities as a seasonal community. So there's a handful of towns that were already designated, the first round per se, including some towns in Berkshire County, like Alford, Beckett, Hancock, Monterey, Mount Washington, Otis, Stockbridge, and Tyringham. We weren't on that list. But there was recently a second kind of wave of seasonal communities, and we were chosen one of many towns to be designated. And this is why we did apply with Williamstown and Lenox for that DLTA grant to get assistance in creating a potential bylaw if we do choose designation. So today I want to talk to you all more about the regulations and what it means and what are the pros, what are the cons, what do we have to do for designation. So essentially, there's only two things that we have to do if we choose to be designated, and we have to achieve that within 2 years of designation, or else we get designation removed. So hypothetically, we could adopt this town meeting and still not do these bylaw. There are two bylaw requirements. We don't have to change them immediately to accept the designation. We don't have to already be conforming. We can accept the designation and then work to get our two accepted and required bylaw changes, which one of that is allowing permitting undersized lot development and also tiny house development as of right in all single-family residential zoning districts. And out the bat, that sounds a little scary, and I do understand that. However, some things are to understand. For these creation of undersized lots, you can't create new undersized lot. It would be if we already had undersized lots in town that are currently deemed as non-buildable, they would be able to be buildable. For the record, I don't really know how many of these we have. I've been racking my brain, and even in what districts. Most of our lots in town are up to size and buildable. There's very few that are not buildable, but this would allow those lots that are already deemed as undersized in their respective zoning districts to be buildable.
It wouldn't allow you to Form A one.
No, you can't create any non-conforming lots, but it's if we already had non-conforming lots, that sort of deal. So somebody couldn't break out their 2-acre property into all of these tiny parcels. It would be if we already had a tiny lot that we're currently saying is not buildable due to different zoning requirements, including just how large the lot is, it being undersized. It would then, there is also, I believe you do have the regulations. There's specific, frontage that you still need, setbacks you still need, including side, front, and back setback. So it's not like any lot would still work. It would just be an undersized lot. And then the second thing would be tiny house development as of right. However, most people, when they think about this, we already do kind of have ADUs. This would be primary dwelling. It would be a primary dwelling as a tiny home, but just like ADUs. And we can still prohibit and not allow movable tiny homes, as they say, as we currently do and according to our building code, and requiring homes to be anchored on a foundation and more specifics that I'm probably not necessarily saying all the right words. But we can still continue what we already have for those regulations. We don't have to change that in order to allow. That was a huge question in one of the information sessions specifically for Western Mass that I went to. Many people were concerned about that, but you can still, if we are prohibiting, which we are, we can still keep that prohibition. We don't have to change that in our zoning bylaws. Other than that, what this allows us to is have essentially, first of all, it opens up a wave of grant funding. This year, it's up to $2 million for towns that have selected to be an in-town or, in designation, a designated seasonal community. There are very little that are, none in Berkshire County yet. Most of the towns that are getting this are on the Cape. A lot of the Cape towns have already accepted the seasonal designation, and they're getting the benefits for that funding. Those funds can go into infrastructure that are affected because of more tourism. They can go into different housing trusts. So I believe they can fund our affordable housing trust. However, this would also allow us to create year-round housing trusts. So our affordable housing trust is for below 80% average median income. This would allow us, if we wanted to, we don't have to, but we could look into creating a year-round housing trust, which would be from the 80% to the 250% AMI. So basically, EOHLC is saying that we understand that not everyone who's struggling with housing fits that affordable window, which I think is true for much of Berkshire County, but especially our town. I've seen that. So we could go up to 250% AMI, so we can go far above the average median income. We can also choose to cap it where we want, 100%, 120, 150. If we wanted to do 250, we could. But that would allow us also to then have, another way of funding year-round housing. So it would really only, this housing trust, these funds would only go towards housing that is designated with deed restrictions as not seasonal housing and year-round housing only. And then also, you can add restrictions, including it must be the principal residence for 10 months. That's the year-round housing restriction. Also, you can do 30-year terms, and unless otherwise specified. So that was something that was very interesting, that again, with the designation we could do, we do not have to do. The only things that we have to do are those 2 zoning changes within 2 years of accepting designation. Other than that, we can also create essential public employee preference for housing. So that would include any municipal employee, including firefighters, DPW, police, teachers, things like that. We could have some restrictions for those who work in the public sector, and they may be full-time or part-time or intermittent or even volunteers. So again, this is something that kind of opens up more ability for us to try to get more housing for essential public employees as well. Additionally, artist housing is an option as well, that you could have municipalities developing year-round housing for artists specifically. Other than that, there's also a potential of having residential property tax exemption, which I haven't looked into as much. This is something that was kind of the last thing added on in this presentation. But municipalities which have already adopted the residential property tax exemption may increase the exemption up to 50% of the average assessed value of all Class 1 residential parcels within that municipality. And if you have any questions with that, I do have to do more research into that to see truly what that means. But yeah, so again, what this funding would allow us to do, it'd be infrastructure, it would be planning and zoning activities. So if we needed to do any housing needs assessments, if we needed to do bylaw revisions, if we needed to do planning for housing development, all of this grant funding could fund those. Also can create the year-round housing trust. It can also create funding for housing development projects. It can also, you can apply for technical assistance to establish a year-round housing trust as well. And these grants, the money from this grant could pay for that if you were to get the grant. And then also, you can do so they call it public horizontal infrastructure projects to leverage housing development, which basically you can do pre-construction or construction relating to sewer lines, septic systems, sanitary waste disposal systems, water lines, wells, utility extensions, streets, roads, curb cuts, and other transit improvements as crosswalk, pedestrian, bicycle ways, and other related horizontal work adjacent to infrastructure for intermittent housing improvements. So they call it horizontal, they don't want you to build up, but that, I believe, last year, every community that accepted the designation were eligible to receive a grant of $50,000 to $175,000 for permissible activities based on their population, if they all applied. This year, I don't know how many communities are going to enter into this. I think this is a fantastic way for us to start, funding some infrastructure that needs to be funded in town. And within 2 years, if we don't want to change our bylaws, we've thought about it, we've sat back and reflected, and we decide that we don't want to do that, we can drop the designation. EOHLC, they're also very supportive. They want to answer all questions that we have. Chris and I met with Philip Deering from EOHLC. Also, this presentation was given by Matt Walsh from EOHLC, so we've already had some conversations. And it seems like they really just want to help us make sure that our needs in our busy seasonal times are supported all across the board, whether it be housing or infrastructure or the like. So I wanted to be able to give the board that information, these answers to think about. I would say if we are interested in doing this, the sooner we get in as a designated community, the sooner we have access to a greater amount of funds, as more communities enter and choose to be designated as a seasonal designation community. The funds get lower and lower per community, so kind of, we could choose to act while the money is there and we could get the most kind of bang for our buck. But at the end of the day, it is up to you and the town, and I'm here to answer any questions or do more research into it. I know it's a lot.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So we currently can be designated? Do we have to accept
We have to vote at town meeting to accept the
accept it.
designation.
Okay.
Yes.
That will be the first step in
Yeah.
that by including it on the warrant.
Yeah.
Yes, and no other town in Berkshire County has accepted this yet, even the ones that were able to do so last year. They've still waited.
And then we have 2 years from that date?
Yes. Yeah, to make zoning changes.
What kind of, I mean, you may not know this, but what kind of funds, do we know how much funds we can apply for or potentially might be eligible for?
I mean, I
or-
believe that we can apply for as much as we want, and then they'll just select. Again, last year, the cap was 175,000 for the towns that were deemed eligible.
Change.
Yeah, for some things that, we could do in town that could definitely make some difference. And again, the last year was funded for 2 million, they leveled it. This year, it's also 2 million. It might be raised next year, depending on if more towns keep adding. EOHLC is anticipating it to be raised. They wouldn't say how much, though.
Do you have anything?
So what are we voting on tonight? To see if we go to town meeting with this?
I mean, you don't have to make that decision tonight. It's just
We're
kind
just,
of
we're just getting a lot of.
informational. And I would eventually like some direction from the board of whether you would like that included on the warrant.
Yeah.
Probably by the end of March.
Yeah, because I think it's important that people be able to wrap their heads around this entire thing. It's a big deal. It's a change. Just a quick, more technicality. We say you're mentioning undersized lots would now be usable, but what I'm not understanding is if the setbacks are still required, or the percentage of the lot that's covered is still required. How does that work?
Yes, so we still do have setbacks for these undersized lots. They would just be smaller setbacks. So what they say is their language is there has to be at least 1 foot of setbacks for every 1,000 square feet of lot size, unless the municipality decides to grant a waiver. But the setback requirements can't exceed 15 feet of setbacks and 20 feet of frontage, no matter the lot size. That's their specifics.
Right.
And their lot size has to be at least 10,000 square feet in size, or 25% of the district's minimum lot size, whichever is larger.
Sure,
Questions?
I do.
Okay, Gordon.
Sure. The tiny house provision, we can already have tiny houses in town. You can have a tiny house as an ADU, you can have it as your primary. So what I wanted to know and to clarify, since we have the ability to have a house and then have an ADU up to 900 square feet or half the square footage of the house, is this tiny house provision in addition to that? So you would have yet a third unit on your lot?
My understanding my understanding is it would be the primary dwelling in that, they couldn't have an ADU that would be half of that size. Right. So they wanted to have the ADU.
Ridiculous.
But it would,
Yeah.
how they've written it and phrased it, they are intending for these tiny homes to be the primary dwellings, not the ADUs.
Well, because it's going to be, tiny houses by regulation can't be more than 400 square feet. Pretty small.
Yep.
20 by 20.
Yeah.
So I know the ADU's out. Nobody's going to do something half that size. But I just didn't know if that was going to, we need to make sure that people are clear that this doesn't mean, like the ADUs, we had to allow them, but we don't have to allow yet a third thing called a tiny house. I just want to make sure
No.
everybody's clear on that.
No, it wouldn't change, besides us
Yeah,
having it in
that's fine.
writing, wouldn't change anything.
Well, it'd be smart to have a tiny house if you had an undersized lot anyway. 10,000 square feet, it's a quarter of an acre, barely. So, and if you have, even with those kind of minimalized side sets and boundary restrictions, you're still gonna have a pretty small house. But it can be more than 400 square feet, it's just not called a tiny house anymore.
Yep.
So, it's something else. So the funding issues, if we create this housing trust, does the funding, do you apply for certain projects that then the money goes into the funding of this housing trust? Or do you generically, like, can they change and alter what they want to use the money for, or you're tied to that pretty much?
My understanding is it would function just like our affordable housing trust, but just
Okay.
for, they call it attainable housing.
Yeah.
Which is that 80 to 250% AMI. And so really it's for, it's almost copy paste
Okay.
affordable housing trust.
It sounds like it's just allowing that specific
Yeah.
housing trust to just spend the money, on a
Little upgraded
Yes.
scale.
not so,
And I should
not
say,
the bottom of the tier, but.
I should say too, I didn't mention this, but they're allowing trusts to be regional, or, regional trust doesn't just have to be the town. So, if other towns in Berkshire County did decide to accept designation, then create a regional housing trust, we could also just join that as well.
But we don't have to.
No.
As part of this.
We don't have to
It's
do
The only two
any-
things are the zoning and
Correct.
the tiny homes.
These are just perks that we could
Right.
do if we wanted to do. And we could decide that later on too. We could accept designation and then think about if there's anything we wanted to do besides apply for funding. We don't have to do anything besides tiny homes and undersized lots. Those are the only two requirements of accepting designation by 2 years. So also, again, we could choose not to.
So with this housing trust that we could create, asking for money is one of the things in your many lists there. Can any of that money go toward down payment assistance, like mortgage assistance, down payment? Is that one of the features that a housing trust would be able to do?
I believe so. I'll have to do more research into their regulations themselves. I think that'd be the case because our
Yeah.
affordable housing trust
We-
can
we-
do
it's
that.
Just checking, yeah, if it's the same.
It's
Yep.
something that we've discussed, making the funds that eventually we'll have, because
Yeah.
right now we don't have any, but making those funds available for
Yeah.
rent assistance, down payment assistance.
Okay, great.
And then small projects. and
The
others.
only differences between an affordable housing trust and an attainable housing trust that they've mentioned is that there are 3-year terms on the board itself. There are exemptions to taxation and 30B for intermunicipal transfers. And those are the only things that they've highlighted and pulled out. So I would assume that everything else would be the same, including down payment assistance and everything that Sean.
And that was one thing I was going to ask you to clarify when I was reading the documents here is, what is an intermunicipal transfer?
It's a great question.
We hire a policeman from Lennox and he moves to Lee? I mean, what does that mean? If we could, down the road, we just get some clarification on that?
I'll look into that.
Because I don't know what that means.
I'll look into that and get back to
All
you.
right, thank you.
course.
And the other tax break, as far as tax break for permanent occupants, is it just the tax break is what you're talking about for just that property? I mean, we're not voting on a different tax rate, like when Sarah comes down to, this isn't like, and I'm sure Stockbridge is
split
gonna have to
rate.
talk about this, like a split rate. Well, all your full-time people get a 10% break, and we're gonna shift all that money over to the part-time, seasonal, and short-term rentals.
I don't believe so. Again, I can
Okay.
look into that more. That
That'd
was
be
one
great.
thing that is kind of out of my realm, so I did my
Sorry.
learning of what I can, but I will definitely look into that and get back to you.
Now, I'm just, as you were talking, I was just coming up with ideas that I'd like to have clarified.
I
Because I
don't
am not
believe-
against this. I think it's probably a great idea.
Yeah, I
to
don't
move
believe it was a
forward with
split
this.
rate or anything of the
Okay,
sort. I
good.
think it could just, there's more exemptions on top of an exemption that if we already,
Okay.
which I don't know if we already have adopted, but if we
Mm-hmm.
have adopted that, there could be more on top of that. So I'll look into that.
I guess for now, Mr. Chairman, I'd be quiet.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything else. Chris, anything you got? No. Thanks, Brooke.
Yeah, so I will do more research and get back to you all at a later date.
We'll think
Great.
about adding this to the town warrant.
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate
Thank
to
you.
reach out.
And I assume if it goes on the warrant, our planning board's gonna have to have public hearings anyway. Because you're
Not-
assuming it's a zoning bylaw change or a corporate bylaw change?
This would be accepting an MGL, I believe.
Okay.
It would not be the zoning change until.
Not
That would come later.
Right.
So we do.
We accept
the
it, or
MGL.
we get the designation, and then we make the zoning
Right.
changes.
Yeah,
Correct.
within
So
two.
then,
Within two.
Okay.
within 2 years,
Yeah,
then
got it.
that's when we do our public hearings and everything.
Okay. Because I still think there should be some kind of open public discussion about this
We
specific thing with more
Yeah.
specific. Maybe have the guys from EOHLC come out and do something
Yeah.
here or whatever that we can put right on
Sort
TV.
of informational meeting.
Yeah.
Session.
They were gonna
Just
come out,
thinking.
it might be useful for our neighboring towns as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's
So
a
we
great
can
idea.
invite everybody and do it in the auditorium.
Yeah, I'll reach out to CJ Haas from BRPC, who has been pretty
Yeah.
instrumental in this for the Western Mass towns, and CJ is working with the planning board and myself very closely on some bylaw edits right now. So when next time I talk to CJ, I will reach out and try to get him also to come and explain, because definitely knows more as well as Matt Walsh, hopefully from EOHLC. They work closely.
Well, I mean, because other than particular towns changing certain bylaw things, the basic concepts are the same that everybody's going to have to vote on.
Yes, yep,
So that would be good to have it open to the public and invite Lennox, Stockbridge, everybody around us.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Perfect, thank you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna skip over Wildcat Sports Group for today. They are gonna join us next meeting. And that brings us to the Eversource smart meter continued discussion. So thank you all for being patient with us. And I have a few, Jim's with us, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to point, and
Jim Willis.
Jonathan, Mirin is also, had provided some of the information in your packet, the town of Charlemont, so.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying to everybody that this is a pretty tough issue for us, because we don't, this is under the Department of Public Utilities jurisdiction, which is not, we don't have much say, or that's my understanding at this point, but we are gonna talk about this and see if there's something that we can do to help the situation out for those that are affected by these smart meters. Is there anything that you guys want to mention before? I mean, I was going to kind of give it to you guys for whoever wants to speak, and then we've got Jim and is somebody here from Jonathan from Hilltown Health as well, so they can maybe speak to some of your concerns or.
And I'm not sure about the other three people if they're here.
Yeah,
but I know of those two, so.
So nobody, not everybody at once. Yeah, I know. Why don't you come up? Yeah, go ahead, just introduce yourself for everybody and let us know what you have to say. That'd be great. Thank you.
I'm Kathryn Levin.
Perfect.
Thanks.
From the
Thank you.
Scientific Alliance for Education.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I don't even know where to start, because I know that you met with Cece, right? And she explained a lot about the smart meters fire hazard. I'm assuming, did you have?
Yeah,
I can talk
she
a little bit
mentioned
more
that.
about that. It's important to understand because they're very different from the analog meter. Do I have a time limit? Because I'm.
Not like expressly,
Okay,
but if you
okay.
take an hour,
No, no,
I might
okay.
have issue with that.
All right.
So no. Please take as much time as you need.
Okay, so with the fires, the issue with there is a mechanical analog meter they last 50 years, 40 years. Everything about it is electrical, it's a mechanical device. There's no electronics in it, and by electronics, that means like batteries, it means circuit boards. I'm old enough to remember being told not to plug anything into the utility, like your TV or being scolded from things like that, because we were warned about electronics being flammable. Now, the meter that I don't know the state of your town, I think a lot of it has already been moved out, but the old analog meters have what's called a spark gap, and I actually have meters and I didn't bring them with me, but the back of the meter has these metal tabs, and those collect any extended over voltages from the utility side. So coming downstream to the home, the tabs grab onto the back of the socket. There's a ring, and there's a ground they ground out. It's very just like a car. It's like a spark gap, boom, to the ground. Those can contain 11,000 volts, huge amounts of volt, okay? The only thing that the electronic devices, also known as smart meters or AMR or AMI meters, have are called varistors. Varistors can maybe, at the most, 300 or 400 volts, okay? So I think recently there was fires. You're not going to hear about the fires. But there was a fire in Cincinnati recently. I think if you're lucky, you can still get it on the news before it goes away. And what happened, there was, I don't know what caused the fire, it was some plant, but the same thing, I'm from California, and in Palo Alto, California, the same thing happened where somebody ran into a pole, the utility went out. When the power came back on, there's a surge of power, and 80 homes caught fire. And the problem with it coming from upstream, originally the meters were designed to do two things: to count our kilowatt per hours and to be a ground. That was the only purpose of the meters. Okay, now we have these other digital meters that have other purposes. So I can go on and on about the fire. I'm going to stop there. The other purpose of the other thing about the technology of these meters is that they have a switch mode power supply, SMPS, for the AC and the DC. And it brings it down the power. And what this unfortunately creates is what's called dirty electricity. And I'm sure Cece talked about that, because so many people, and I just came from a farm today in Hillsdale where the tenants, they're renting, and the person who owns the farm wanted the smart meter, but the people who were in it renting did not. So now we fast forward, it hasn't even been a year since the smart meter's been up. The husband has heart palpitations. The wife has tinnitus, you know, the ringing in the head. And they're scared. And so I'm trying to work with them to help them, you know, get it out. Now I tested their home, and the interesting thing about this case is that the meter is on the barn, which is across the street. It's not on the house, but this is, again, one of the things about smart meters, why they're the leading cause of electromagnetic radiation syndrome. And it has to do with the fact that the dirty electricity, instead of it being like a smooth kind of thing, it's jagged. Hops onto the wires and it comes into the house. And so appliances or things get fried. It goes through the panel. Now the panel stops any kind of electrical malfunction from within the house, from downstream. So, you know, let's say a blender or something all of a sudden gets too hot and it blows a fuse downstairs. But that doesn't happen in reverse from upstream. So I think I brought images too, like I'm back on the fire again. But this is some they call it catastrophic failure. And this is also something that's called, it's a different type of fire than people are used to. And it's because the PVC on the wire breaks down. And I've talked to fire forensic people who've investigated a lot of these fires, and they say they have more than enough evidence to show that these smart meters are a problem. But again, it's a switch mode power supply that creates this issue. So anyway, back to where we're going is that they're inadequate designs, and there's flammable parts, and the fires can originate at the meter, within the meter, in the wiring. Analogs don't have this issue whatsoever. They're not a fire hazard. You can have this too. It's okay. Just a little, I did like the red being this and the blue being you know, to make it easy. Now, the problem with the dirty electricity is it creates this biological issue in the human, or in any biological thing. Plants, I've seen studies on plants, bees. One of the most powerful reports I ever read was one that from Mount Matheson, Mount Nardi in Australia. It's a huge World Heritage Site, and they had all these towers. This is getting into the radiation aspect of this wireless radiation, which is what this whole issue really comes down to. And anyway, the conclusion at the end of this report by this naturalist, where he saw all these different species. He first thought it was global warming, but then they had to turn off the towers at some point, and then he noticed a lot of the species coming back. And he says, oh my God, it's related to the radiation. And every time they installed a new G, a 3G, a 4G, more species disappeared, more species, more species. And he says when he looked at this, he was like staring into the abyss. It was like the most devastating conclusion I'd ever read. So I can get you that report too. In my mind, we don't need any more evidence. We have the evidence that it's harmful. The question is, like you said, what do we do? Because here we are, with Eversource, an unelected organization. Let's call it a monopoly, kind of. And, but is there a Massachusetts statute that gives them authority to make selections for the village or for the people? Is there a statute that gives them that authority to say what technology you have to use? Are they disclosing the full purpose of this technology? Because it's very important for them to get this technology in, and I'm going to tell you why. And this is, to me, this is worse than the fires. This is worse than even the radiation problem, and the fact that they're making their pockets bigger. To me, the most chilling aspect of this technology is that it is a bug. It's a surveillance device. There's something called non-intrusive load monitoring. It's a disaggregation thing where it takes the frequency and it breaks it down so it says, oh, that's the light bulb. Oh, okay, that's the hairdryer. Oh, that's the oven. They know when you're home, when you're not home, what you're doing, what room you're in, whether you open the refrigerator, whether you're up at night. There used to be a court order that would say, we need to do a court order to see what Kathryn Levin was doing the night of blankety blank. You don't need that if you agree to any of these meters because they're basically surveillance devices. And to me, that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And to me, that's the most chilling aspect of this whole thing. So my question to them, aside from, I know a behavior profile is being made from these devices. It's quite obvious to me. But what they're not doing is being forthcoming with disclosing in detail all the functions of these devices. They're not forthcoming with that. They're not telling us about it, and they're not telling us who is all this going to. Who paid them? I know it's worth a lot of money. It's worth more money than the electric that they're getting from us, for sure. Because they're going at leaps and fast. Okay. Okay. So the other thing I just want to say is that things you could maybe do for bylaws. I had Stephanie take something from, what is it? Sophia? I'm sorry. Sabrina. Sorry, Sabrina. So there's a woman named Nina Beatty in California who is an amazing researcher. They started on this 10 years ago. And she put in some things, legislative things to help people like figure out solutions to roll it back or to help the public regain what they, to make it wired. Because we want to have technology, we want to have it wired, and we want to update our bylaws. That's important. I know Jonathan's done a lot of work with updating bylaws, and he's important to hear on that. But, you know, we could ask for guarantees possibly to make sure that the new meters that they want to put in do not give off any type of electromagnetic frequency. You know, if you're going to put something in, we want to make sure it's safe for everybody, everyone. To make sure these frequencies are not harmful, they do not create any physical, mental, neurological issues, and will they take full responsibility for any and all damages that occur, you know, full compensation for any injuries sustained from their equipment that they insist on using, okay? That these new meters can pass extended over voltage test. That's the fire one that it will never go through. And that the network and the meters will not be used to surveil and monitor homes and businesses and invade the privacy of our homes and businesses. I think those are things that maybe you could address, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot.
And if you have questions too, just ask me.
We've got your card. Thank you. Can I pass? Is John and James still with us here? So Jim, thanks for joining us. I know I have a little blurb from you here that I read about you know, the health board's position. Do you want to speak to that just for everybody?
Sure.
You can talk, but you can talk in better terms than I can.
Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Wilusz, Tri-Town Health Director. Yeah, so I was talking to Chris last week, and he asked that I give, you know, some information to the board related to this. I've been following the smart meter issue for a while. I've actually advocated and gone publicly that there should be an opt-out plan for those that suffer from EMF frequency disorder and whatnot. The challenge for the Board of Health perspective is it's a DPU jurisdictional authority on the installation of the smart meters. The boards of health don't really have the authority to issue a moratorium or do anything against DPU. But what I have highlighted is what our role could be if these meters are installed. You know, we are required under statute to examine all nuisances in public health. Now, while that statute's very vague, it does allow us the ability to at least investigate and advocate for these residents. You know, I also talked to Chris too, you know, it's a little bit different, but the telecom industry, there's confusion around what the Board of Health jurisdictional authority is over the telecom industry. And this all came up with the cell tower and all that kind of stuff years ago. And there's an appeals case at the SJC right now that came out of the Pittsfield Board of Health lawsuit that the SJC is actually in process of looking at to make a determination if the Board of Health in Massachusetts has any jurisdictional authority over the telecom industry on citing public health issues related to EMF. While we're talking about smart meters, it's kind of apples to oranges, but it's similar. If they rule on that and do grant boards of health authority to investigate and have some type of authority over EMF frequencies, that opens up additional opportunities for the Board of Health to look into this. And I agree, like I've been following the EMF stuff for a long time. I've gone on a record recently that the Berkshire Edge that there should be an opt-out program at no cost, and our consumers should have a right to decide what they want on or in their homes. But also putting on my municipal hat, the Board of Health right now doesn't have jurisdiction over the DPU. That's a challenge for us. And I agree with everything that's been said in the room. And the EMF, you know, industry and science and research, you go to many different websites, people still talk that it's inconclusive, but we're hearing more and more of this. These people suffering from EMF frequencies is becoming more and more of a conversation at the public health realm. And again, I'm here to support the board, and we need legislation. We need consumers that should be able to opt out at no cost. They shouldn't have to pay any additional funding to opt out of the program. And And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thanks, and I know, John, you're joining us too from Hilltown Health. Is there anything you want to say at this point? Unmute.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christopher. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I mean, I think where we're at here in a little bit east of where you are, Charlemont, Shelburne Falls, Greenfield, is, I guess one of the attorneys that I'm consulting with, their take on it, and I'm happy to put you in touch with him, Jim, for a conversation, is that your Board of Health has what's called plenary power, which means, you basically have complete jurisdiction over, mitigating chronic illness in, your town, or towns in the case of Tri-Town Health. So, obviously this would be, if Tri-Town Health or the Board of Health of Lee, started an investigation and found cause to, that the installation of smart meters with no opt-out option was going to increase chronic disease rates based on, peer-reviewed science, which, that might be the conclusion. That you would have the authority to, to stop it, to issue whatever order you're going to issue. And of course, that would lead to a legal battle, kind of maybe like what Jim is describing. It's already happening. So yeah, plenary power, that's one angle. Another angle, just in terms of like what next steps might be, my understanding after talking with Christopher is that that Eversource is asking for a poll hearing, or that you're in the midst of a poll hearing. And, another tactic could be just issuing approval, based on certain conditions. One condition could be, at least informing the residents of Lee that these smart meters emit radio frequency radiation, and here's a link where they can learn more about what that might mean for their health. I mean, right now you're getting 3 letters, and none of them even mention radio frequency radiation. 95% of your residents have no idea that they just read the first sentence. They're busy people. They're taking care of their families. They read the first sentence, says, you're getting a smart meter, you're gonna have more control of your energy, and there's no cost to you, and there's nothing more you have to do. That's the average person just puts it down, but then, that smart meter, or bank of smart meters, if it's a multi-unit building, could go right next to their, a pregnant woman's bed, go right next to a child's bedroom. The smart meters themselves that Eversource is installing, the manufacturer says that there's an 8-inch, no one should come within 8 inches of the meters while they're on. The average wall size is 4 to 6 inches, so is Eversource going to be required to mention that there's a safety limit, a warning about, they're definitely not going to mention it if no one forces them to mention it. So those are a few ideas, and I'm happy to answer questions about what we're doing in Charlemont. We did pass a moratorium a few years ago, but that was deemed non-binding by the Attorney General. But I think there's plenty that the select board could do symbolically, but I think there's actual traction when it comes to the Board of Health. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Jonathan did provide some legal opinions.
Yeah.
It's in your packet.
Yeah, I want to make sure that anybody else who wants to say something has a chance.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan, for coming. I'm surprised that you're here. I'm Cindy. How are you? Okay.
Hey, Cindy.
So I just wanted to say that in case anybody doesn't know this, insurance does not cover a fire from a smart meter. If your house burns down, that's it. You don't get a penny. So you should look into that. And, how do people know that they have to opt out? They don't even know about what this sickness feels like until they put the meters on their homes. And then all of a sudden they're having migraines and throwing up and all kinds of situations. We don't want it to get like that. My thing, why I started this whole thing, is because I want to keep my analog meter. I put a lock on my gate. I locked my meter. They are not coming on my property. There's something we can do that Kathy knows about a letter that you can write to them that they don't have the right to come onto your property for other reasons, but I would like everybody to send that letter in. And everybody should opt out. I don't want to opt out for the meter they're going to give me that just has a switch on it because it still has dirty electricity in it. It still pulses the same way. So you have to realize that. I want to keep what I have. My analog meter is not broken, and it will work for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for all their thoughts. We, as everybody, you may or may not know here, we have sent a letter to the legislature as one step. It's not huge. We don't expect them to jump because we sent one letter, but you know, it's something. They at least know what our position. As far as Gordon, Bob, do you guys have anything you want to say at this point? I don't have much more as far as, you know, the town putting a bylaw together or putting a moratorium, as Jonathan had suggested, will probably result in the same thing, the AG, you know, not agreeing. But, yeah.
Well,
We'll stop it for a while.
That's
The only good thing.
delay.
is-
That's
the only good thing is that you're taking a stand on something
right, yeah.
and not just acquiescing to whatever the
that's-
monopolies
that-
want to do, so.
That may be something that we consider doing even if we're gonna be rejected.
Sure. Go in knowing you're gonna be rejected.
Hey, you know, we can
And
try.
We make the news.
Yeah.
Why not?
Making the news is a great step.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think moving forward, that may be something we look into. I don't know, anybody else want to say anything? I don't have anything else to say. This is, I learned about this like 3 weeks ago first, so I'm still catching up.
The funny thing is, I emailed Chris in November when I got the letter, and he says, I'll bring it up to the select board. And he says, oh, they're not interested in taking this up at the time. I said, well, I'll show up. And that works.
So, yeah.
And there was some talk about a public presentation.
Yeah.
Which I have been in contact with Cece
Good.
as well.
Okay.
Looks like you have a hand up there.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead, Musante Farm. Introduce yourself and just,
Hi, my name is Amy, and I'm actually not a resident of Lee, I'm a resident of Dalton, but I'm very interested in this topic. I'm a biologist, and I share a lot of the concerns, and I've done quite a bit of research in the primary literature about this, and I absolutely agree that they are not being transparent about these issues. And in fact, if you look at, you know, some of the regulations that the FCC has on cell phones, they literally date back 30 years to 1996. They have not updated the standards. So they're not really doing justice to the people. And it really is up to, you know, select boards and boards of health to speak up. And I'm really hoping that our state, you know, we tend to be leaders in some of these areas. I hope that they will step up. And I really salute you guys for discussing it. I missed the last meeting, but I saw reports of it online, and I was wondering if any of these meetings are archived, because I would love to share them with my own select board and board of health.
yeah, actually, CTSB comes and records all of the meetings in Lee, at least, so our meetings are typically, you're gonna find all of our regular meetings on ctsbtv.org.
Okay, great.
Under
Well,
the,
thank you so much. I appreciate you guys taking a sincere interest in this, and also really appreciate that you're listening to your, you know, your town members and supporting their concerns. So thank you.
yeah,
You have to come up. so
you
we
gotta,
can-
yeah, you gotta come
Come on
to,
up, yeah. No, well,
yeah, yeah, you do.
yeah, you do. Just because people need to be able to hear you. Yeah, they need to hear you.
Cece just posted today, because I get her email through Massachusetts for Safe Technology. She just posted not only thanking the Lee Board, but also basically has the actual video of our last meeting. And that's on Massachusetts for Safe Technology, Cece Doucette. So all the information is right there.
And she has another thing on the 25th.
Correct. I don't have it in front of me.
They can say it.
We did add it, I believe, to the website.
as well, so
We have a posting.
it's blasted out to residents about that.
That'd be good for questions too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it hits home for me because, you know, I know certain people that just with the Wi-Fi mesh are affected with this health-wise, 24/7. And I just don't want to see everyone get sick. Even, that's my big thing, is the sickness with it. Because I know I would be getting sick. Thank you.
Anything further on smart meters? We won't let this go for too long before we revisit it, but I think that was good discussion for tonight, unless there's somebody else.
I'm sure Jonathan would, I don't want to volunteer you, Jonathan, but if you were able to email me that bylaw that you guys did, I know we've connected through email. I'm happy to share it with the board, yeah.
The general telecom bylaw, the bylaw update,
Yeah, the one that, that Charlotte did,
or the moratorium?
yeah, the moratorium, yeah.
Yeah, I can also do that. I mean, I'm also, there's also, this is, slightly related topic. Charlemont did and Shelburne both updated their telecom bylaws, which was pretty antiquated, like a 20-year-old bylaw, just to reflect 5G and give the town more leverage in terms of inappropriate placement of small cells and things like that. So, I don't know, it's related, but a different topic, and I don't know if you guys have done that update, but I can send you both.
Right, yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, and thanks for coming.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we will move on into our next order of business here. We have a review of internal police chief candidates. And so as everybody may or may not know, we did, our police chief is retiring, and we started the process of searching for a new chief by doing an internal posting, of which we got one application. This is Lieutenant Stephanie Burdick has inquired in interest, and so I guess at this point, is the posting still active, Chris, or is it closed?
The internal posting is now closed.
Right. So nobody else this is our only application in-house, and we would like to do an interview at some point, right?
Yeah, I was gonna.
That'll be the next step for the board,
sure.
yeah. If you would like to go forward with the interview, I can help get that
That'll be our
arranged.
next- yeah.
No.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would actually make a motion to schedule an interview for Lieutenant Stephanie Burdick before the board to be interviewed concerning this position
And, yeah,
in the
sorry.
near future.
Do I have a motion? Is there a second?
I will second that.
And we will hash out a date and
Yep.
time
Yeah.
at that point. So if there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this is, here we are. Our next order of business, we have discussion and possible vote of Stockbridge Road property, which we're calling, let's see, what have we been calling it?
300 Stockbridge
300
Road.
Stockbridge Road is the address.
Some
Attached-
people, AKA Town Farm, but
Town Farm, it was called in the past by, I don't know.
All
It's
kinds of
just,
things.
yeah, it's probably been called all kinds of things, yeah. So, we put out a contest to see if we could get some naming choices, some submissions, and we got what, 30, 32, something like that?
32.
Bob Gordon and I kind of went through and ranked them all, and we have what is here, our number one ranked, and I don't know if you want to speak to all this, Chris, but how did that, so Cornhill Preserve landed number one on the scoring. We had Long Cope at number two, and then there's a number of of ties at 3 Unity Park, Keysog Wildlife, and Papermakers Mark. Papermakers, I bet you that.
It's supposed to be park,
Yeah,
I think.
typo
right?
there, but that's
Not
it.
mark. Park, yeah.
Park. So, board, Bob, Gordon, how do you feel? Is this a proper name? There was a lot of research done into the Cornhill Preserve
Yeah,
name,
no kidding.
and it was enlightening for me. That area was Cornhill. It was where it was a farm for a long time. Kind of still is. Yeah, and corn was grown there.
I believe that was the name of a town district almost. Like, or a
Yeah,
town, like almost like East Lee or South Lee.
Yeah, it was in the
That was
1800s. It kind of was almost a borough, right?
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Cornhill Acres. So, if there's a motion that one of you would like to make to name the property Cornhill Preserve, otherwise.
Or any variation.
Or any variation
Yeah, I think
of that, you know.
There was
Yeah.
another one like.
Well, it was not my first choice, I will admit that. I had a different first choice, but,
It wasn't my first choice either. Was it
Yeah.
any of our first choice?
hey, what the heck are you doing, Bob? Then why is it here? If
But it
it's
was
not
on
anybody's
it was
first.
on. It was high on.
Oh,
It was
and all of them, yeah.
It was high on.
So-
The way we
Yeah.
ranked them was based on.
I get it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it showed up somewhere on
The only one that
so-
showed up multiple times.
Yeah.
The others were only mentioned once, so
Yeah.
that's what put that
So-
aside, yeah.
So for that, I mean, I don't know that I'm big on the word preserve, Cornhill Preserve. Like, I'd almost rather go back to Cornhill Farm, which was mentioned in the 1900,
That's kind
Berkshire
of-
Gleaner.
Yeah.
I think another one was Cornhill Recreation Area.
Yeah,
Or-
Yeah.
Cornhill
Yeah.
Preserve or
Is it the other one recreational area?
I think
Well, I was looking at the,
reservation. Yeah,
Reservation.
Yeah, it wasn't our
okay,
word.
yeah, and I don't think I would want to use reservation. I
No,
think that's,
I like farm, honestly.
Yeah.
The Cornhill Farm or
or Cornhill Farm Park. So would they understand it's a park?
I think because of I'm not a big fan of naming it after any individual.
I don't either, I'm not
unless
either, no.
And I'm not a really big fan of naming it after some sort of aspiration or sentiment or anything like that. But because of the historical distinction of it being the Cornhill, I have no problem with Cornhill Farm or Cornhill Farm Preserve, something like that.
How about Cornhill Farm Park?
Cornhill Farm
Get rid of
Park
the
is
word
fine.
preserve.
That's fine.
But I mean, at least it opens it up, and just so people at home realize, 1, 2, 3, we have 4 different documents here where this Cornhill Park or Cornhill Farm was mentioned in the Berkshire Gleaner back in the late, and other documents, a Berkshire Eagle, some other, back in the late 1800s and into the 1900s. 1915 was one. And I don't know if it's worth tying it in, but one of our presidents came and visited here, Martin Van Buren. Martin Van Buren actually came to us, a Dutch heritage film. One of the people were Dutch, and I don't know if people know that we actually had the Dutch from the Netherlands during World War II came
Yes.
and stayed right here in Lee.
Yeah.
At the
It's,
top of the hill?
Devonfield.
Yeah, Devonfield, which probably at one part was part of that farm,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
Not on Stockbridge Road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, and because as I read the description in one of the articles they gave us, this farm was huge.
yeah.
I mean, it was over 100, I mean, it was hundreds of acres. It started
Extended
almost
all the way
across
to
from the
Longcoat,
Gulf.
right?
Yes,
There was- I
well,
think
not
there
only
was-
that, up Beartown. We
there
went
was
up
a-
Beartown Mountain.
Yeah, and there was an aspect, or there was one thing I read where Longcoat bought a part, the Longcoat.
Yeah, the Longcoats bought part of the farm. But,
It kind of all ties
That would be
together.
great information for the kiosk.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that, I was gonna mention that too, Chris, that, that it's almost like we need to synopsize all this information, because people are gonna think, what the heck are they talking about? This is crazy. But because it hasn't been, that language hasn't been used probably since the early 1900s, 1930s or so.
Yeah.
But it is part of the town of Lee's heritage. And So I guess I'm not big on the preserve thing, but Cornhill Farm Park, I guess I would be okay with that, or at least to throw it out there and see what hits the fan in the meantime.
Is that a
and maybe vote on.
Is that a motion? Is that-
I don't know if I want to say it quite that way as a motion. But I guess I would say, at least in the interim, I would suggest that we put it out for town comment,
Yeah.
to including the information, maybe if
Yeah.
it could be on the town website,
Yeah.
these documents from these newspapers for Cornhill Farm Park.
That's fine with me.
So is that a mo, it was?
Yeah, that was a motion,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
Then I'll second.
Yeah, I have a second, all right, I have a motion and a second. And is there anything further before I call for a vote?
I was really happy to see we had 32 different people who responded and paid attention. I
Yeah.
think that was great, and there were really some
good, yeah, there's some good.
and some great research on some of this stuff. The explanations about some of it was just really, really very interesting. I was pleased with the amount of public participation, more than we ever get volunteered to any boards, so it was great to have that kind of level of participation.
Yeah.
And 13 of them were students.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's,
wow.
yeah, 13 were students. Yeah, that's even better, because we did extend it specifically to the schools. So,
Okay, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Moving on, all right, our next order of business, we have a municipal aggregation item to consider here, and it's whether or not we want to authorize town administrator to sign the amending agreement to electric service.
Back to electric.
Talk to me, yeah, just to speak of the
Yeah.
meter electricity issue.
Yeah, so basically.
Yeah, this is an ongoing thing. We've done a number of different municipal aggregation.
Yeah, this was an unexpected amendment, and so it affects all 17 towns in Berkshire County that are part of this program, because we did our aggregation together the last time we did this.
Yep.
And between the time we did this and now, and there's a lot of literature in here that probably
Yeah.
explains it better, but in short, between Department of Public Utilities and ISO New England, they've implemented what's called a cost recovery fee. That cost recovery fee essentially gets tacked on to the rates. So,
Just another way to
make
nickel and
another-
dime it.
which were not included when we went on this rate. So now the supplier has got another fee that they have to tack on that wasn't included in the rate
Yeah.
that was quoted to us. So we don't have a huge choice in it. What people do have a choice is that if they don't want to stay in it, you can opt out anytime. You can opt in, you can opt out of the program. There's no fees, there's no penalties or anything like that. But it does raise that from 13,042 to 14,292.
So this isn't our supplier, this is our provider, this is back to Eversource again.
Well, it doesn't just affect, it affects all people on,
Well, whatever,
National
it's about the
Grid, yeah,
supplier,
yeah,
and
yeah.
this has nothing to do with the cost of any generation. Somehow they've gone to the DPU and said they're losing money and they need more money to pay their investors and their corporate officers and rate recovery. It sounds like they lost something, they didn't lose anything.
This is
They're gaining.
This is an MO, this is years
This
ago,
is crazy.
when LED bulbs came out.
Yeah, right.
And my electric bill, I was in Stockbridge at the time, my electric bill was like $180, and I said to Karen, we gotta buy LED bulbs, we
Yeah.
can't be paying this. So we went out and spent $300 on LED bulbs. My bill came in the next month, was like 110, and I thought, wow, this is great, we're conserving. A year later, it was back up to 180 because they weren't making enough money.
Right.
With all the people using LED bulbs, and this
Yeah.
sounds to me something along those same lines.
It's gotta be, that's the DPU, we're looking out for, not for the people of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, they're
It's all about guaranteed
making money.
income, guaranteed profit.
Yeah.
It's not, it's just, the legislature's got to take some kind of stand, grow up, and and decide to speak for the people of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, our elected officials are there to advocate for the people, not not the utility companies, and that's
Right.
when things like this keep happening, it hurts.
Yeah, interestingly, this would be in effect in March, which I believe is when they've also put in the rate reduction time
Right.
at the state, so it will actually seem more like a wash.
Yeah.
But the rate reduction really won't be a reduction because of this. It's basically like,
Right.
we'll bring them up a penny and then bring them back down a penny. So if you expected savings in March because of that, it'll pretty much be a wash, but.
Well, the monopolies got to make their money. You know, they got to be guaranteed. And we always pay the price.
So I would ask for a motion with all that said.
Yeah, I know. Well, we don't have much choice. At least we're not getting whacked by our supplier, just the deliverer. So I'd make a motion to, what do we have to do? Authorize Chris to sign the aggregation.
And again, this is, I think 17 or 18 towns in Berkshire County are all getting the same thing. So.
I will second Gordon's motion.
And if there's nothing further, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our last order of general business for tonight, we have a couple of police officer appointments to consider. I believe we can do these both at the same time. Connor Fitzsimmons and Mason Milek are both being recommended for a position in our department by Chief DeSantis.
Yeah, and they're both they both qualified for the academy. So these are not lateral transfers. We won't actually see them
on duty.
On duty until probably August.
Yeah.
So before they'll actually, but there is, we do have positions to fill. So we had one position that we were able to fortunately fill with a lateral, but others will not. There were no other lateral transfers that had applied, so this went to a test, and then they've gone through, as it says in the letter, a number of additional tests to be qualified to go to the academy. And so we have to appoint, they have to be appointed, and I believe that's going to be effective 2/27/2026, which is the effective date that we would hire them to start the academy. So.
Great.
So in reading this, it looks like if you're going to make the motion that we need to do it per the chief's letter, because there's a seniority issue, it looks like, that we need to make sure we maintain, so there's no question in the future about, as far as seniority goes, which really isn't going to matter till years down the road, but I think...
So with the seniority, Mason Milek being the
Yes.
first senior.
Correct.
Right, right. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that the motion reflects the chief's the recommendation on that, other than that.
Well, I'll make a motion that we appoint Connor Fitzsimmons and Mason Milek as police officers effective 2/27/26, according to the terms of Chief DeSantis's recommendation.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't have anything not anticipated. Gordon or Bob, you got anything you want to say?
No, sir, thank you.
Then I'll hand it over to Chris. Chris?
Just a quick public safety update. The work over on Railroad Street is underway, as you probably know. This week and the end of last week, they've been working on taking out the foundation, which we know has been a little noisy. That good news is they'll be wrapping that up this week, maybe a little bit into next week, but certainly just a few more days of that, and then they'll be moving to other site work. So trailers are in now, electrical service is being put in, and they have a good portion of the concrete has been broken up and jackhammered, and that will be hauled away next. So
great. Anything else? No. Awesome. Our next regular meeting is March 3rd, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.